Welcome back to Before You Do with Verlyn. I'm your host and favorite premarital coach, Verlyn Tarlton. Thank you for joining me today. And today's hot topic is who checks the X? Let me say that again. Who checks the X? Now, the short answer to that, well, first let's determine who the X is. When I'm saying who checks the X, I'm referring to an ex-spouse, as an ex-husband, ex-wife, or maybe the father of your children or the mother of your children or your child. Okay, in the event that you've been divorced or you are broken up and you have the X. All right, so who checks the X? The short answer to that is, in an ideal situation, whoever it is that you're involved with who has the X, it is their responsibility to check the X. All right. So what do I mean when I say check the X? I've talked to blended families before, and I've actually done a short podcast on this. This is kind of like a part two. And I myself have also been involved in terms of having a blended family. My husband and I both have been divorced, and so we brought children to the table together. So I am speaking both from experience as well as helping walking other people through this very complicated scenario. Blended families is not easy, all right? It's hard enough, but when you have a meddling ex or you have an ex that does not want to let go, all right, it makes building or bringing that family together much more difficult. And let me say for the record, I am not an advocate for divorce. I hate divorce. It hurts everybody on all levels. However, unfortunately, often we find ourselves in this situation. And what's really interesting is I was reading a statistic. 80, I think it was 86% of divorced people remarry within 5 years. And I thought that was interesting. I would think it would be the other way around. But then again, I'm a divorced person who remarried, and my husband is as well. So I guess I shouldn't be so shocked by it. But yeah, 86% of divorced people will remarry within 5 years. So what that means is we should be having more conversations like this because while it is hurtful, it is reality. Okay. So the first thing we need to establish in terms of who checks the X is there should already be boundaries in place before there is any discussion on getting married. And ladies, I'm talking especially to you. Let me explain this. If there are no boundaries, it is guaranteed that you will have problems. You will have many, many problems because if this precedent is not set, I promise you that you will have an ex that wants to still control, that wants to still manipulate, that not only will she want to run her household, but she will want to run yours. And so it is pertinent that you have a conversation with the man before you marry him, before you even get engaged, and set a precedent in terms of what it is that you are expecting him to do in terms of setting boundaries. It is way too much work and it is way too complicated to get married and then try to go back and establish boundaries and establish rules. The pushback will be phenomenal. Let me be very clear. You can be divorced on paper and not divorced in your habits or your emotions. I'll say it again. You can be divorced on paper, right? And not be divorced in habits and emotions. There is no piece of paper that can legislate a heart. And so while marriage is a legal entity, it is still very, very much emotional. And so just because you get a piece of paper or that man has a piece of paper and his ex has a piece of paper, there could be ties that are still not broken. If you see problems now, I promise you they will only be magnified if you choose to marry this man. Or men, if you decide to marry a woman and you see the ties are still tight, they're talking every day, they're talking about sending each other money, You may have a person that's divorced on paper, but they're not yet divorced in their mind or in their everyday life. That means you're going to be in for a fight. All right. The boundaries are not set because you don't have anything else to do in life. Boundaries are set in place to respect, to protect, and reflect your union or your future marriage or your relationship. Let me say that again. Boundaries are set to respect, protect, and reflect your relationship. Often enough, we go in, as I always say, we're in love, or we throw caution to the wind on everything else because love conquers all. Well, let me tell you, love is not enough. If you don't have some boundaries set, if you don't have these conversations up front, I promise you, love is going to flee. And you're going to be sitting there trying to figure out what's going on. When you have an ex and there are no boundaries, especially if you have children, I guarantee that that ex will still be controlling your future, and that ex will be using those children as pawns, okay? That is not something that you're going to get around. And as much as I'd like to say, hey, if everything is going good, then you're good. Sometimes things can look like they're going good when you're dating because it's like, okay, well, he's dating. It doesn't matter. They're just hanging out. But let me tell you something. It's a real thing that happens when you get married to that man. All right. It may have looked okay when you were just a girlfriend, right? You just sliding in here or there, but all of a sudden you become a wife, you're going to see some stuff hit the fan. And so, what I am explaining to you is rather than waiting, you have to be proactive, not reactive. And again, what does that mean? It means you have to set boundaries. You have to have hard conversations with the man that you're getting ready to marry. And sometimes that can be difficult because the man does not always see the manipulation. He doesn't always see the control that's going on. Why? Number one, it is a habit. He is used to being controlled by his former or his ex. He's used to being controlled by the mother of his children. And so it is an ingrained habit. He's used to trying to keep everybody happy. Now, all of a sudden, you're trying to bring up something that is going to cause little ripples, right? Number two, men want to be heroes and they don't want to disappoint their children. And so if you talk about setting boundaries and it looks like it's not going to work in the favor of the children, not because it's going against them, but because it's setting boundaries with their mother, that's going to be an issue as well. That will be an issue. They say it's complicated. It is. I'm not an advocate of going into a relationship with someone that has clear issues with an ex. I'm going to say that right up front. However, we know that sometimes there are really good men out there, and we say, you know what, we can work this out. And that may be true, but just understand you're going to have a fight on your hands. And before things get easier, lots of times they will get much harder. Have to establish boundaries. The next thing is follow through. That is sometimes even harder because it means you may hurt some feelings. So there are a lot of dynamics going on. If you are deciding to marry a man who has been married or has children with other women or another woman. And I'm sure this can possibly work with the men, but I don't see it as common. What I do see is most of the time, men don't have a problem with moving on with their lives and letting go. It's typically the women that want to stay in the picture, they want to control, and they don't want to see the man happy, even if they weren't happy with him. And so when I talk about boundaries, these are the conversations that you need to have because you need to look at what you see. And if what you see is someone still controlling, you see she didn't want him, but she doesn't want you to have him, These are things you better think about a whole lot. You better get a lot of premarital coaching before you walk into that situation. I promise you, chaos and being complicated, those are minor words. It can be very life changing. And I don't mean in a positive way. I am saying this: the ex has to be checked by the potential husband. He has to set the precedent. I'll say it again. The ex gets checked by the potential husband. He has to set the precedent. It is not for the new wife to check the ex. It doesn't work that way. That is not even your place. It's never been the woman's place to deal with the other woman, period. You ever see these situations when a man is cheating and a woman approaches the other woman and catfight and all that? No, the man is the one who is supposed to protect the marriage and the vows, not the other woman. It's not her responsibility in terms of who you need to deal with. That's another whole topic. But yes, the husband is the one who checks the ex. Let me give you some examples. Unless it's something that's related to children, if they had children together, then there's no need to be communicating all the time. There should not be a bunch of texting and calling and messaging going on. Now, I'm not saying this is, you may have a different type of relationship and maybe you're cool with that, and that's fine. What I'm saying is this: the constant communication is not necessary if you don't have children. If you don't have children together, what's the conversation about? All right. Now, when you have children, clearly you have to decide how you're going to move forward. Okay. The man says, I'm getting ready to get married. From now on, we're going to have an open conversation with the new wife as well. Some people may disagree. Some people may agree. But let me tell you, some boundaries and some respect has to be put up front. If not, you're going to have chaos. If not, you're going to have, again, I would say, an ex trying to control her house and still trying to control your house, especially related to children. The children will be the pawn that the ex will use to get to the husband. If it is not an emergency, no ex should be calling all hours of the night, seeking counseling about her personal life. No, ma'am, that is out of the question. If there's already child support, alimony set in place, then should she be calling? I need more money because I need to get my hair done. I need more money because we're going on vacation. No, ma'am. Again, it's no clear-cut rules. You have to do what works for you. And let me make sure I'm being clear on this. I am not saying that an ex and a current wife cannot be cordial or work together closely to make sure that children are raised so that they are in healthy and happy homes as they go back and forth. There should not be any conflict, but this again comes with setting boundaries up front. All adults should agree that it's all about the children at this point, that they should not be used to play tug of war, that they should not be used as pawns, and that when they go from one house to the next, they should experience equal love. They have a thing, what is it called? Bonus mom, right? So now you got a bonus child, a bonus mom, and it should make for a happy home, even though you will have to work through things. I'm not saying it's going to be easy because you set boundaries, but I'm saying it's going to be a heck of a lot easier if you set boundaries than if you do not, right? And so I believe when you're dealing with an ex, especially a woman, yes, you should be cordial. Yes, you should be able to talk about what's going on in that child's home, what's going on in the school. What I am saying is that there has to be a clear boundary that that ex is not running your home and that she's still not controlling and manipulating the man that you're married to. I'm sure this is going to have to be a part two, but let me stress this. In no way is this going to be easy. And this is something you have to think about before you get into it. That's why I would definitely encourage you to sit down and have conversations. I would also encourage you to open your eyes to what you see. If they are still arguing every day and they're calling and hanging up and stopping by, I'm not going to tell you to run. Maybe I'll just say walk quickly. I don't know. You may have to make that determination. If you don't see something changing and you walk into that blindly because you are in love, I promise you, that's not going to work for you. Two people should not still be arguing back and forth like they did when they were married. They should not still be calling each other every day, hanging up. They should not be dropping by each other's houses, having issues. If those things are going on, that is a problem. That means they may be divorced on paper, but they're not divorced in their habits. That is not something that you want to invite yourself in the middle of. All of these signs matter. You need to get out of the, well, I just love him so much, and you need to really see what's going on. Because in the event that you marry, guess what? I promise you it will get worse. And so if you see these things and these signs or these red flags and you start collecting them, it's going to be on you. If she's used to doing certain things and he's not willing to set boundaries, it will continue. If she's used to running him, it will continue. If the children are used to running him because he wants to be a hero and he's saying, you know what, I got to make the children happy, I got to make her happy, your happiness is going to be put on the back burner. And there are plenty of shows. I'm not going to advocate for them, but there are plenty of shows out here that show you the realities of what it looks like when you still have a meddling ex, a controlling ex, an ex who doesn't want to get out of the picture, an ex who doesn't want him back, but she doesn't want you to have him either. That is chaos. And so, please, please rethink your position and have some real conversations. If that man is timid and he doesn't want to confront what you see is the obvious, you better rethink that thing. If the only thing he wants to do is make his children happy, then this may not be the time or the man for you. Maybe you need to revisit him once they grow up. All of these things will contribute to your happiness or your unhappiness. And so it is so vitally important that you live in the reality. This is not a time to say, I see potential. No, the only thing you see will be potential disaster. You will see your peace leave. You will see the harmony leave. You have to ask yourself, will it be worth it? This is my book. If you're interested in reading it, I wrote it about how I navigated through it. All right. You can navigate through it. So I'm not saying if you meet a man and he has an ex or children, that's a deal breaker per se. You must consider the other facets and all that that entails. I think I'm going to have to do a part 2 because the only thing I dealt with was setting the boundaries. We didn't talk about the why. We didn't talk about a lot of things, but I'm going to leave it right here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please like, share, hit the subscribe button. If you know someone who's looking to get married, already engaged, or newlywed, please share this video. Go to my website, verlyntarlton.com. You can pick up freebies, and I also have a couples vision board template. That way you can sit down with your person, all right? And if he's got children and an ex, you can have this template printed out, and you can deal with these parts or these possibilities, and you can write down what it is you can expect, and he can write down what he expects. Anyway, you should have a vision of what you want to do when you get married. So again, you can get that at verlyntarlton.com. Again, please like, share, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for being here. This is coming from the auntie you never knew you needed. All right. May you experience extraordinary love. Bye for now.